Welcome to ScryBabies. I'm Lewis Stardust.
I'm Tori of the Vast.
I said it like that, like it's not the podcast. We're on a podcast. We're on the ScryBabies podcast. Look at that.
Tuning in to the ScryBabies podcast.
Yes, whether you are on Apple, Spotify, or over here on YouTube getting all those good visuals, we do a podcast every other Wednesday. And this month, you're getting 3 of them because we have a lot of good content to put out. And also there's 3 bi-weekly days that work for that.
There's 3 Wednesdays in May.
That's how that works. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit of a deck tech. This is something that's been requested from a lot of our patrons. So if you do like this type of format of video, let us know. We're each going to be talking about one particular deck that's been in our wheelhouse for a bit, talking about our favorite cards, the strategy, the synergy, and why we pick that deck, and then just talking a little bit about the cards in it and what we're hoping to do. But first, this episode is sponsored by TCG Player.
This year, we've had so many cards come out. We've had Ravnica Remastered, Murders at Karlov Manor, Fallout, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and now we have Modern Horizons 3 coming this June. There are so many sets. This means there's so many singles and packs and precons and things that you can get.
A lot of stuff already, yeah. And I know we're talking a little bit about MH3, but the Fallout the show came out.
It did.
And so a lot of people are really into Fallout right now. And if you want to check that out, you can get those on TCG Player. We have lots of new singles, just like Tori said. And it's a great place to pick up like those secret layers you might have missed. Maybe some of those singles from the secret layers if you didn't want to get the whole set. They have everything available on TCG Player. So if you want to go pick that up, you can use the link in our description to go support us and the show directly on their site.
Head over there and do it.
Yes.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
Spend some money.
You deserve it.
Yeah, make it rain. Today's featured patron is Tessa of Hyrule. Thank you so much, Tessa, for being a patron. And if you would like to support us, you can join us on our Patreon. I make cool little stickers, tokens. We hang out. We do deck builds. We do gameplay. We talk about Survivor. We do a whole bunch on there. It's a cool community. So check it out. We have tiers as low as $1.
$1.
$1 hair.
$1 hair.
USD.
That's what we got. And before we get started, I want to address the elephant in the room, which is my big card. Look at my big magic card. It's for the studio.
Woo! If you are driving, there is a large magic card. It is a piece of cardboard, particle board, and it has loot, the key to everything on it.
The little baby.
Little baby.
I did Command Fest Dallas this past weekend, and I got a big card after using all my tickets, and I said, finally, we have one for the studio, and everybody was like, you guys have one finally, and that was really cool of everybody being supportive, so thank you. That's all. Now we can get into the actual
All right,
point
have
of
a
this
good
episode.
day, everyone. See you later. Bye.
So when we were talking about what to do this month, we talked a little bit about our decks, and I said that this is something people have requested a lot, but I wasn't sure how to do it. I'm not like I like to watch deck tech videos, but I don't think I'm a person that's going to produce them. So I try to find a way that was like fun to talk about it. Yeah. And so I thought the 2 of us can kind of go over our decks together. If you want to start first, or I can start, you tell me. You picked which deck today?
I picked Mirri the Weatherlight Duelist, one of my favorite decks. I've played it a couple times on the show. I picked this deck because this one I kind of tinkered with on my own. I didn't really sometimes I don't net deck, but like a lot of times I'll take inspiration from most commonly used cards, but Mirri's a fun commander because you could build it kind of however you want to build it. So that was the commander I picked. Who did you pick?
I picked Mike and 11, so I love Stranger Things. When the Secret Lair came out, I knew I wanted to build a deck from those cards, but I wasn't sure what. I knew I wanted it to be 11, and then I love Wooburg, so I love all 5-color decks, and so I thought that her and Mike would go really well together. Of course, they're in love, so it's a whole thing. They are dating, and so I was really excited to give this one a try, and I decided on the theme being Mike's D&D deck. So the deck does dungeons, dragons, initiative, all the good stuff, and I've never built a deck that has had so many different options for what it can do, so it makes it a little clunky for mulligans sometimes, but I like that it's a really versatile deck. A lot of my decks are like, here's the strategic game plan. We do 1 to 2 things. This deck does a lot of stuff. So yeah, my whole reason for picking that was because I like Stranger Things. And if you have a problem with the Secret Lair decks, that's okay because they printed other versions for these cards. So you can get those instead. But I love them.
So we're going to start with my deck tech for Mirri the Weatherlight Duelist. Why did I choose this commander? I picked this because I do not see a lot of Mirri commander decks. I don't really ever see it get played. I don't. I think she's awesome because you could build her to be Staxy. You could build her to be a bunch of tokens. You could do Voltron. There's a ton of variants with the deck. It's not just a one size like fits all type thing. You could do whatever you want.
She's also printed on like a lot of different cards throughout Magic too.
Yeah.
And this is like her green-white version of her too. So that's kind of fun.
And she comes in a little secret lair too. There's a little baby kitty version.
Really cute.
It's very adorable, which I love. So the strategy for Mirri, in this build, I do it with a mix of tokens. I do have some Voltron equipments in there as well, so it's a little bit of both. The plan with the deck is to try to get tokens with Tendershoot, White Sun Zenith, or Scoot Swarm, everyone's favorite. There's Anointed Procession in the deck. You want to try to double them up. But the whole point of the deck is that if you make Mirri big and beefy with the equipments, whenever you attack with her, if she is tapped and attacking, your opponent can only block with one creature. And then whenever an opponent wants to attack you, if she's tapped, they can only attack you with one creature. So you always want to be able to tap Mirri. So making sure that she's big and obnoxious. No one really wants to, kill her or block her. You get through with her, so that's pretty good. And then if you have all the tokens, you can get all of those guys through as well. For the creatures in this deck, my honorable mentions are the ones I've said before. Scoot Swarm, I love Scoot Swarm.
It's good for the deck.
Tendershoot, so you can get through with all your little guys. And then I do have some favorite cards in this deck. As everybody knows, my favorite card ever is Hungry Lynx. It is in there. It is so much fun. It gets to buff Mirri. I get to give everybody rats. I get to have fun. I get to draw my stupid rat tokens. It's the best day ever. Gideon's Lawkeeper is a great card in this deck. You could pay a white to tap Mirri. That way, if you don't want to attack with her because she could die, you could just tap her on your own. Then we also have a Stoneforge Mystic in there. Pretty good, so you can get one of your big equipments or your cool swords. And one of my favorite creatures I get to play in this deck alone, is Nazan. And he's really cool because when you play him, you tutor for his hammer. And the hammer's fucking awesome, so I love it.
We like a hammer.
Yeah.
You have a play style that you like.
I do. And Nazan is literally like a Sigarda Zane, or his hammer's like Sigarda Zane at home. So it's crazy. Yeah. Artifacts. I have all the swords. I do have to update it. I have not put the new Sword of Wap in there. So I have to do that.
Excuse me. Can you repeat what you just said to the audience?
It's the Sword of Wap.
Do you think people call it that?
Yes.
Yes? Audience poll right now. Do you call it the Sword of Wap? We need to know. Thank you. Continue.
Yeah. There was 2 Sword of Waps, actually.
Yeah.
But this is the Wealth and Power Sword. I do have to add that one in there because it's busted. I have not added that in there yet. All the swords, they're insanely good. You could throw them all on Mirri, make her big and annoying. Another favorite artifact of mine is Basilisk Collar. There is a brand new one that just came out with the Fallout set. It's really cool. It's on dog meat. Love that. I know who that is now because of the show. Oh, and Bloodforge Battle Axe. Awesome card. Everybody loves this card. Yep. It's so much fun, and it pops off in this deck. For the enchantments, I love enchantments. Sigarda Zane. Duh, obvi, one of my favorite cards ever printed. Pop on all your stuff at instant speed with Flash. All those equipment's really cool, and they don't have to cost anything to equip. It's great. Anointed Procession, like I said above, is for all those tokens. So you can just keep making a bunch of annoying guys, especially if you have Scoot Swarm out. It's obnoxious, and I love it. Favorite green-white card, enchantment-wise? Aura Shards.
Yeah,
Aura Shards is great. If you're making a bunch of creature tokens, then you also get to trigger Aura Shards a bunch. You get to blow up everybody's stuff. That way it's just like I said, it's like a little Barney bag of everything in this deck. You could do so much.
We love a mean card on ScryBabies.
I do. I play all the cards and I don't mind. And then I have some instants in here. I've Settled the Wreckage. I think that's probably my favorite board wipe because it's not a board wipe. It's just board wiping someone, whoever with me. It's like you want the sauce. Here's the sauce.
Mirri's like, this is the sauce.
This is the sauce. I have Teferi's Protection. Who doesn't? It's the best card in Commander. I'm sorry, it is.
It's your favorite.
It's the best. It is a Commander staple. I think every Commander deck that has white in it should be playing that card. Otherwise,
it's just like I'm out. Everybody else take care of it.
Yeah, you can peace out. Everybody else can fight amongst themselves. And yeah, protection. I have a Worldly Tutor and an Eldamri's Call. That way I can grab the creatures I want, which are usually the Stoneforge Mystic. If not Stoneforge Mystic, it is the Nazan, so you can get that hammer and just have a Sigarda's Aid too.
You're basically just playing Mirri Hammer.
Yes, it is basically Mirri's Hammer time.
Mm-hmm.
So for sorceries, I don't really play a lot of sorceries in this deck if you look at the list. I have a Cultivate in there, Explosive Vegetation, which are just some ramp spells so you can get some more mana. Because there are some expensive creatures in the deck. Like I think I have an Elishnorn in there.
Yeah.
I definitely need to take this deck and put some new swaps in it. There have been so many sets that come out since this deck, but I just kind of if it ain't broke, don't fix it with it.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of decks where like you feel like at least for like Lathril, for example, like that deck I feel like doesn't need any changes. Like it's perfect the way it is. It's been doing its thing for so long, and then 6 or 7 sets come out and you're like, oh, maybe we should put a couple cards in here and like upgrade it.
There's like that cool like green white Ixalan cat came out.
Oh yeah, the Kutzel one.
Yes, I don't know how to say it, so I'm glad that you did. Yeah, like I feel like that would be really good in this deck. I actually pulled it out and was like, this should go in Mirri. Still haven't done it though. Then I do have one board wipe in here, and I don't like playing board wipes, so that's a big deal if I have one. I have a Fumigate.
That's a good one.
Just in case. It's just like my in case shit gets real.
Plan, yeah.
I like to have one in there. And then there's the lands. It just runs all the green-white lands, all the good ones. I don't really have anything in this deck that's crazy land-wise. I don't have a Gaia's Cradle. This deck is also 100% real cards, so don't have a Gaia's Cradle in it. And I also don't have a Rogue's Passage, but I should.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's got to be some like green-white stuff that like helps with buffing. Like there's like that red-white one that lets you get in, right? So there's got to be something for Mirri that might be cool.
There definitely is.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't tinkered with it in a while, but it works. It works well. And that's how I built this deck. And I think, I think more people should play this deck, and you can build it however you want.
It's a fun deck. I think for a while, you were like, this deck wins games, just not on
camera.
On the show. Yeah,
it's camera shy.
It's camera shy. And every time you play it, you always have an Hungry Links out. I can guarantee that no matter what.
I mulligan until I have a Hungry Links in my opening hand.
That's it.
That's
card.
all I want to do. I just want to make rats.
I do think it is strong, especially with the ability that she has for like you can only, block with one thing, and then you can also only attack with one thing. Mm-hmm. What are some weaknesses, I guess, for the deck that you have?
I think the weaknesses I have currently is that the creatures can be a little all over the place. Like I have cats in there that are great because cat synergy works really well, so you can buff your other cats, which is also going to buff Mirri. I have like random things in there that I'm like, this card is cool, so I want to play it, so it's in here. Like I said, I have Elishnor in there. There's no business having an Elishnor in this deck. There's not. It's honestly not that good. I barely even play her in the deck. She's just there because I was like, cool,
I could do this.
I like her. I have like the new Planeswalker from March and Machine in there, the Nissa completed one. Yeah. Threw her in there just because, wanted to see how she did, because she makes like tokens, big tokens of stuff. So I was like, ooh, if I could just keep down ticking her and like making these big tokens, I don't want to be at work. I barely cast her. So I think I need to just rework some of the creatures. I definitely need to update the equipments. I need to put the new sword in and maybe take a look at some of the equipments that are in there right now. I know a bunch of new ones have come out that are probably a lot cooler.
Like I said, I think it's always nice a couple months after doing something to like tinker a deck, especially because there's so many new cards coming out. And I do think it's a really fun deck to see at the table. And it's also the name of my cat because Tori plays Mirri all the time and she suggested it.
Yeah.
And that's her name.
She's a cutie pie.
She's very cute. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about mine, and then we can kind of get into like more about decks and our feelings on those too. I said I was playing the Mike and 11 deck. So the strategy for this, there's a lot of stuff that happens. So with this commander, and we'll get into these a little bit more later, but it comes with all the Stranger Things kids. So Dustin, Mike, Lucas, Hopper is also there. He's not a kid. And then they also have Max and Will. And that was a lot of cards in there, right? Yeah, that's a lot of cards in that one. And what's it called? The monster. Mind Flayer. That's in there too. So those cards do a lot of clue synergies. And so I figured a good way of making up for that 5-color mana base was also to do treasure synergies. So this deck does a lot of clue, treasure, and food tokens. I rely heavily on an Academy manufacturer. It was really hard to say for some reason, which is one of my favorite Magic cards ever. So I got to use it a lot in this deck. 11's ability is really good. She's a 3/5 and your maximum hand size is 11. I almost said there's no max hand size, and that's incorrect. And then whenever she attacks, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Then if you have 11 or more cards in your hand, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. So our strategy is basically attack with 11 and then cast a big instant or sorcery, which we'll get into in a minute because there's some really fun ones. I play like all the ultimatums and conflicts. Mike is kind of there for just like color fixing or just like being 2 colors for the deck. But his ability is you could pay 2 and tap him to choose target creature that was put into your graveyard that turn, and it returns to the battlefield tapped. So this is pretty good. If you sack something to like Ashnod's Altar, you can generate that 2 mana and bring it back in like recursion from the things in the graveyard. So I like that a lot. A lot of time he sits in the command zone because he's kind of like the dungeon master doing his thing. Other win con is there's a way to do infinite dungeons with Acerak, you know I'm talking about, the little zombie guy? Yes, you could do infinite dungeon stuff with that too. And I'm sure there's other shit that I don't realize because I put a lot of cards into this, but there's things and ways to win. So because the set did come with Dustin, Will, Hopper, Lucas, and Max, I worked them into the list as if, they're players of the game and they're playing D&D. Hopper, Will, and Max focus on clues. Lucas does things with our clues, so you can like shoot one at somebody and do some damage. Dustin's just kind of there, but he's my favorite sweet boy, so I will not get rid of him from the deck. He's perfect.
He's just there.
And then we have cards like Mirkwood Bats, Naughty Air Nightblade, Reckless Fireweaver to help with all those little clue tokens and artifacts coming in to do damage to our opponents to try to win the game.
The Mirkwood Bats is also like so on brand now with Eddie.
Yeah, it's perfect for Eddie. I want like an Eddie and Steve card so bad. That is like my dream. I hope they print out another Secret Lair. But yeah, it's very on theme with Eddie. It's on theme with D&D because it's very like Lord of the Rings. It's good. And then I also feel like sometimes I pop off with like a culling ritual because it'll see all the tokens go, and like sometimes that's how people go because I'll have like 30 of them, so that's like a fun win con. We also have a lot of dice rolling cards because that's what you do with D&D. So we have cards like Will, Delina, and Simon. So Simon was in the D&D movie, that's where he's from. The other cards are from Baldur's Gate, which felt very good and thematic for this set too. So we play a lot of the dice rolling dragons. I also have a Tiamat in here because that is like the signature D&D dragon, but you can also go get all the dragons from your deck and bring them out. So yeah, very focus on those clues, treasures, all that stuff, and your dragons usually are making those as well. The problem is there is sometimes too much card draw on this deck, and I'm afraid I'm going to deck myself because if you roll for like the ancient silver dragon, like you could just not attack with him, but you always want to swing with your dragons. And then flavor wise, we do have the Mind Flayer in there, which I've never actually cast that card.
Never?
No, I've never cast it. It's never come up in my games before, but that is one that you can take cards from people's decks on the bottom, and that seems pretty fun. I've just never had that ability. I also run some dungeons effects, so there are dungeons, White Plume Adventurer for the initiative, stuff like that, so we can go through the dungeons and do some stuff as well. I feel like the initiative is fun. I haven't got a chance to play that one a lot because I kind of stopped playing this deck when I finally made upgrades to it, so I'm hoping to get a chance soon. As far as what's next, artifacts. So we work on a lot of artifacts in this deck, so the ones that I have are mostly for flavor. I mentioned the Ashnod's Altar, which is a staple for the deck, but everything else is just like fun stuff. So I have a Vorpal Sword. I have an equipment too. I don't know if you play Vorpal Sword, Tori, but
I haven't.
Basically, it's 1 mana. You pay 2 to equip, and then you have to pay 5, 6. You have to pay 8 mana. And then until end of turn, whenever a equipped creature does combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. So it's like a thematic D&D one, but also really fun. So that's a good like little win con too. I also play a treasure chest, a deck of many things. I have Vecna dungeon map because again, flavor D&D wise, it's not the most strategic stuff, but it is a fun one, especially with the deck.
Do you have the Negan's bat in there?
No, but that seems fun too.
Because like, I mean, it's Negan's bat, but it can be like,
It's a Gisa's shovel too, and another one. Like it works. It's like a silly little thing.
Well, it's like when Steve beats the shit out of the thing with the bat, the Demogorgon with the nails.
I thought you were Steve, and I was like, what are you saying Steve is doing with this?
No, Steve from Stranger Things.
The better one. I got it. All right. The legendary ice cream scoop Steve. I'm sorry. He does do that. I can use that. That is smart.
Themes.
Yeah, thematics. As far as enchantments go, it's just like Smothering Tithe and Rhystic Study to do card draw, but honestly, because there has been so much card draw in this deck, I could probably take that Rhystic Study out, which I think I'm going to do to put some more flavor cards in there. We have an Anointed Procession, which is just doubling those tokens, which is really important, and then a Thorough Investigation, which is just giving you the, it gives you investigation. So you make clue tokens when you attack, and then when you sack a clue, you go into the dungeon. So it kind of helps you with dungeon stuff.
Do you have like thematic clue tokens for the deck yet?
I don't. I feel like I really need some.
You do. You should get the like pictures that Will draw.
Well, because they gave you like the one that was the letters on the wall that they did for those. But like, I feel like I should have something for each of them. So maybe I'll commission somebody named Tori to make me some cool ones.
Can you imagine?
That'd be pretty cool. And when I started playing this deck, I actually put all of the class ones in there. So like the Wizard class, the Bard class, it was just full of them. I haven't found them to be very efficient for the deck. The Bard class and the Wizard class were the best. So I kept those in there. The Bard one relies on rolling. And then the Wizard one I kept because 11's a Wizard. And so it's a card draw. No maximum hand size one. So we like that. Let's talk about those cool sorceries because I'm excited. So we play all the ultimatums. So that's Brilliant, Cruel, Eerie, Emergent, Genesis, Inspired, Ruinous Ultimatum. All those cards are incredibly cracked. You cast them for free with 11's ability. It's very easy. It's very nice to do. And it's on an attack trigger, so it just happens.
Just happens.
It just happens, which
free
is great.
stuff.
There's also a culling ritual, like I mentioned. There's a Demogorgon's Clutches, which is just a flavor card. It's not a good card at all, but it's in there because of the name. And Conflux, which is great because when you cast that, you search your library for a card of each color. So sometimes I'll pick dragons, sometimes I'll pick another like ultimatum, sometimes I'll pick something else. Those are really fun too. My instants are kind of low. I do have a Teferi's Protection.
Always have to have it.
Gotta keep one in your pocket at all times. I keep a Psychic in there, a Heroic Intervention, just a simple counterspell, 1 tutor, and Swords to Plowshare. This deck needs definitely some work in the instance department. I'm also only running 33 lands, but this deck makes so many treasures that to me it's like...
I'm on board with 33 to 34 lands.
Yeah, usually I do like 36 on my casual decks to be safe, but I use for all my basics the ones that were from like Midnight Hunt. Mm-hmm. So it looks like the upside down in my deck. Ooh. But also it's really hard to tell what color lands those are.
It is hard to tell what they are. That's the one flaw. They're very cool, but they all just look like swamps.
It's not the greatest. And then I also there's an altarist. His name is ALK Altars, I believe is how you say it. He actually did a set of fetches and shock lands that look like the D&D manuals, because remember when those lands came out from those? So I have a couple of those in there that look like the D&D manuals, but he made some of his own. So I have those in place for my lands for the deck because it looks really good flavor wise, and it just is more fun than playing a regular shock land. And so yeah, this deck has just been like a favorite of mine because it's really flavorful. It's really silly. I think like we often just do combat decks, and while this can just be like, we're gonna swing with some dragons and win, there's like ways to do other things, and like the dungeons are cool and the dragons and this and that. So I've had a lot of fun playing the deck. It's not like always winning, but when it does stuff, it definitely does stuff. I think the weakness for sure is like the current cards I have in there. You take 11 out of the game and make it really hard for me to get her back. That's probably really difficult because then my main game plan of just getting a free spell like that is kind of gone. And also because I play so many dragons and things like that that are expensive, making sure I have the correct mana is really important for casting those spells, but also making sure that I can get things out later. I will say, like, I feel like the most, like, when I play this, I barely see the like the kids from Stranger Things.
I was gonna say, I think you've played this deck like twice.
Yeah, I played it twice on the show.
Yeah,
I played when we had Rachel, and then I played it another time. I think when Cody and
Marissa, I think.
Yeah, when I played it once when Rachel and Lady were here, and then I think the other time I played it was when Cobert and Peachy Pop were here. Yes. And so it was like we all had D&D decks, and it was fun.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And so like it showcased it a little bit on there, but it hasn't popped off. So I'm hoping to have a redemption. I think maybe we just have one episode where we bring our redemption decks back to try and get them to win. That's fun.
A good idea.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Decks that like did its thing but like didn't win. Maybe we just like get us and like 2 other people that haven't had that chance yet to bring those decks and try to win with it.
Yeah, it's like the Survivor like comeback people.
It always comes back to Survivor.
It does. So this begs the question, when you build a deck, I guess if you're at home too, what do you think is the best way to brew? Do you have any like tips or tricks for brewing a deck? What do you think works for you to help you get in the mind space? To help you look up cards? What do you do? As
soon as I find a commander I like, I love that we have Moxfield. Moxfield has made it like the easiest, which they're also their sponsor, so check them out. They're amazing. But I really like them because it's easy to find everything you're looking for, and it's easy to like, especially if you're budgeting, to see like the correct prices and like set it so that things are cheaper if you want to find things like that. I always pull up Moxfield and then I'll put Scryfall on the second tab, and I'll kind of search for like the thematic things that I'm looking for, the colors that I'm looking for, and go through cards that way. I know Moxfield also has an EDH rec tab, so you can always scroll through those and find additional cards. I like the idea of doing more stuff with our bulk. Ian and I recently have been doing this thing where we go to a convention, we get a commander, we buy 10 cards, and I only buy up to 5 packs. He buys more, but I buy 5 packs, and everything that's in that deck has to be from the 10 cards we have, or we trade with people, or we go through random bulk that's left over and we make a deck that way. And it's been really fun to like try something on the fly. Mine is very like, it's also like a time capsule because the one we did at Chicago was MKM focused because that's everything that was there.
Yeah.
It was a Marin deck, but there was so much MKM stuff that's like in those decks. And this one, I did Negan, which is funny because you were talking about this earlier, but I did him as, a treasure deck because its treasures are everywhere. And because the Outlaw set came out, he's also a rogue. So he's like the perfect Outlaw deck for like Thunder Junction stuff, and it worked out well. So with that, I really do want to use our bulk more because I feel like it's just sitting there and I want to like
I agree.
go through that too. So sometimes I'll take like an old deck that I've had together and be like, well, there was like some thematic stuff that I want to use from this, so we'll take it out of there because I'm not playing it anymore. But I do think like it's nice to have a feature like EDH Rec because you could just be like click, 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 click if you want to. But I also like sometimes don't like that because I want to be more creative with the things I'm picking too.
That's how I feel about it. I'll go on EDH Rec and I'll look up synergies or like, what are the top cards that play on a landfall deck. Yeah. And go from there. But then I also agree, I'll try to be like, let me think outside of the box. And then one of my favorite things to do too is like open up Moxfield, get some friends to look at it. Did you know on Moxfield too? We love Moxfield. We're just talking about them. They also have the co-author feature.
We use that a lot.
So we use that a lot. You can add somebody to be a co-author on a deck. So if you want to be like, hey, look at my deck, if you like want to add any cool cards to it and let me know why, and like we take something out, that's been always like a lot of fun. Me and Steve have been doing that a lot lately. We'll like co-author decks with each other.
We've done it on Discord too.
Done it on Discord a bunch.
We do like patron nights.
Patron night where people suggest cards, and it's great because Moxie, you can just look at them and decide, what am I going to cut? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? And it's right in front of you, and it's great.
I like their features on there a lot too. It's really easy just to go through each like thematic thing you're doing. And then once you're building a theme, like the EDH Rec changes a little bit to like suit that theme, which I think is cool because if you're like, all right, I need a couple finishers, what should I put in here? You could just search that button too. Yep. But there's like the ability, I think, for Scryfall that's really great is like you have the ability to search anything on there and like any colors you're looking for. So that makes it really easy to find like the type of things you're looking for. But yeah, I think like especially when a new set comes out too, like you just built a Bill deck, right?
I did. I built personally Bill.
And I built Marchesa and I want to build Loot. So Marchesa was easy too because it was like, okay, I can look through and find all these outlaws that just came from the set. Let me go through my bulk and see like what I got. And I think trading's fun too. Like
trading is really fun. And I do like the whole like we did the pre-con upgrade episode. If you haven't watched it yet, check it out. It's been a ton of fun. We did like a $50 swap 10 cards. And after doing that, I actually saw the Vihan Goldwaker or whatever his name is. The little dwarf guy, treasure guy.
The other one in the Olivia
The other
deck.
one. The other commander. I want to build him now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I'm going to take that deck apart and build it to be like him and then just swap in some cards. And that's a great thing about pre-cons too. It's like work's already done for you.
You already have a good base. Like you switch out some of the mana like stuff and then add in the cards that you want.
It's like the, what is the Greek ship of Dionysus, or how do you say it?
Girl, I don't even know what that means.
I'm saying it wrong. It's the ship of Theseus. I don't know how to say it. Sure.
I don't know. It's
the Greek one where if you replace the planks of wood to upkeep it, is it the same ship anymore after you replace all the wood or not?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Listen, the girls that get it, and the girls that don't. But anyway, pre-cons are a good way to start building a deck. I think that is a fun idea for us to keep doing too. And then I think a good question that I actually had asked me lately is when you do build a deck and you have your deck and you sit down and build it, how do you know if it's going to be good?
Mulligans.
You had an answer so right. Like mulligans.
Yeah. You mulligan your deck a lot and then you see if it's going to be efficient to play with. Moxfield also has a great feature where you can play test it, so you can mulligan those hands and look at stuff. But I always encourage people, if you want to try a new deck, you can go to our Discord or any Discord and like try to play it on there. I don't know if there's any way to know it's gonna be good. Sometimes I'm like, this seems great, and then I bring it and the deck sucks.
Oh, that happens to me all the time. Like I think I'm cooking and then the deck is just awful.
Yeah, and
or
sometimes
sometimes it's great.
Sometimes the deck's great, and like there's been times where I hate to be that person, but I'm like, this deck doesn't normally do this. I'm so sorry. Like it'll pop off. Yeah,
me and Bill. I built Bill and I was like, this is a good 7. And I'm like, oh, this is gross. This is absolutely gross.
There's an episode coming out with Bill that's like the numbers infinite. And it's just...
You need a Texas instrument
to
play this deck. But I think something we should start doing too with the channel, and you do this with your friends if you're building decks, is have like a test run night where you build your thing and you're like, I want to try this out.
Yep.
Before I go to a Command Fest or MagicCon, I want to see how this does. And I think a good thing to do, and I know you've done this before, and it's very cool, is take some notes. What is the deck missing? What does it need more of? What does it need less of?
Yeah. It helps a lot. I noticed too, like even with my mulligans and when I played, I'm like, okay, like I really didn't have enough card draw, so I should probably add some card draw instead of this deck. Or I really put that card in there for fun. There's so many cards that I'll keep. I'm like, this card is fun. I'm keeping it. I don't care. Like
It's me with Hungry Links.
literally, I've fought Ian for like 2 years about keeping Angrass Marauders in Winota, and now he's finally playing it because I'm like, it wins games. But sometimes I do it and the card sucks and it's not worth it.
Surveillance.
Yep. Oh no,
CDH.
actually, no, they're happening.
I know.
Some people are saying it.
I know.
It's too
The
slow
folks
for
at
me,
home.
but I'm happy for the people that enjoy it.
Sometimes you want to take a peek.
And also too, it's like very situational, but there's a thing. Anyways, we're getting off topic. So there's a lot of ways to like build a deck. There's no wrong or right way to do a deck. I think it's also hard when we don't know what the actual number is for a deck. Like we don't know if it's a 6, a 7, a 5. Like that does not really exist. It's kind of, is arbitrary the word? Yeah, sure. That's a word. And so I think as long as you're building a deck with the intent to have fun and with a game plan, try not to have 6 game plans like my deck does maybe, but if you want to try something wacky, I think it's okay to do that. One of my favorite people to watch build decks is Rachel Weeks. I love how creative she is with decks. Josh from Drunken Elder Highlander also makes really fun creative decks, and I've been enjoying watching his stuff and playing against those too. Steve has been doing a cool job with some of your decks as well.
Steve's been cooking. Absolutely cooking on his downtime of some decks.
I enjoy that. And Ian does like wacky, like casual decks because he plays CDH all the time. So I enjoy watching creative brewers. I love a deck that just does its thing, but I love when you're like, I'm playing this deck because it makes tiny dinosaurs. Hee hee hee.
And
like,
I love a theme.
Yeah, I love a theme.
We should start doing more themes.
Yeah. I know Rachel, the first time I ever played with her, she was playing Feldegrif and she had a bunch of little baby hippos and she was giving them out because they give hippos. That's what the deck does. And it was great. And then that was like me first getting into Magic. That was like the first couple of months I was playing. And I was like, wow, this is fun. Somebody's bringing little hippos. And I just like want to bring that kind of essence to Magic. I want to bring like a silly little guy to Magic.
Yeah. And this format is the best to be creative and to, you know, not just play the game, but also tell a story with your deck. Like the Mike and 11 deck has a story in it. It's cool. It's fun.
If you are watching this episode and you do want to see more deck techs from us, please let us know down below. We also link our Mox Field in almost every video. So if you want to check out our Mox Field and see what decks we do have, maybe we can kind of go through them with you. Let us know what you want to see. And as we mentioned earlier, we do deck brews with our Patreon community over on Discord. I'm planning on doing one this month, so you can come check that out and brew one with us. But you can always leave suggestions for those on our Discord as well, and then maybe we can go through something we build. Check those out too.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a fun time. It's a good way to hang out with friends. Well, that's all we have today about our deck techs and building decks. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a thumbs up, or don't forget to comment. Tell us what you want to see, what you want to hear, what decks you want to see, or, you know, just comment and say, hey, we appreciate that too. It is the best way to support the show. It is the freest way to support the show. So go ahead and do that and make our day.
That's
all. We'll make yours. Bye.
Bye.